Okay, so today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things to cover. This is such a huge part of CCA. Mindset. When you guys come into CCA, we do that first call together, that really long one to see if it's like a good fit. I tell you guys about the three pillars of CCA, if you remember. Some of you have been with me forever, so might be a refresher for you. But if you remember, it was strategy, mindset, and accountability. Strategy, because it has to fit our day to day lives. It has to be something that we can maintain long term, that we feel good about maintaining. Mindset, because for a slew of reasons, but really because if you're dealing with invisible illness, you're dealing with neurodivergency, especially to say that mindset's not a part of this is just missing a whole chunk of the puzzle. Motivation is a big thing. It's not a constant thing. So that's not something we can rely on, right? We tend to come into this from a place of, I hate this body. I hate this, the way that I'm living, and that negativity kind of, we need to work on that, because what are you going to wait till one day you wake up? Oh shit, I've lost 50 pounds. I can finally be nice to myself. Good luck losing the weight. Good luck keeping the weight off if that's the case. And that's just weight. I'm not talking about all of the symptoms, because even though I have person after person tell me I'm not here just to lose weight, and I believe you, I was in the same boat. We all live in the same society. So now we have the sick and the weight kind of staring at us. And you really don't get better with that. Oh, hold on. I forgot to take the waiting room off. You don't really get better and then the mindset improves. It's really the other way around, which seems crazy, right? But it's so important. And then lastly, the accountability part. If you remember, when you're first coming into CCA, I say, we got the strategy, we got the mindset, we got the accountability, but the accountability is different. It's accountability in a sense where I don't want you to just check in with me and tell me everything's hunky dory. It's great. If you have a week where you nail your baby step and you're like, this was great, I have nothing to talk about, like, it's good, but it's also like, I want to make sure we're working on stuff. So for me, the accountability is, tell me when you screw up. Tell me when you're busy and you can't even think about taking care of yourself. Tell me when you feel like screaming and pulling your hair out. Like, tell me when you're frustrated, because that's when we're going to figure out solutions. So I just wanted to start today with a reminder of those are the three pillars of CCA: strategy, mindset, accountability. And they all go hand in hand. So today we're going to talk about the mindset side of things. We're going to talk about self-verbiage. I don't know if it's verbiage, whatever. I'm just going to say verbiage, okay? So we're going to talk about how to change the unhelpful inner dialogue that's going on, that just screws it up for all of us, right? And I know I said that last week. I know I said that we would revisit the eat the frog technique today, but after hearing from my coaches throughout the week and through my own calls and just doing this for so many years now, I see these patterns, especially going into the summertime. I think we need a little mindset recalibration. Or some of the doldrum texts are coming out. I call them the doldrum texts, where it's like everything's sad, everything's horrible, everything's going to shit. But it's like, we're working on stuff, right? So how can we feel good about what we're doing when we don't feel good about what we're doing, or we don't feel good about doing anything? And that all starts up here, way before all the physical can change. It's the most annoying thing. So that's what we're going to get into today. And I've done Eat the Frog. There are like 4 recordings, I think, on the page. We will revisit. We'll do that next week. But the weather was really nice this week, and I think it sent some people into a funk, which it always does. That's okay. So I think maybe we should just dive into the mindset first, and then we'll tackle day organization with Eat the Frog. Okay? So we'll do that next week. So let's see what I wrote here. In my summer challenge group, and if you want to be included in that, definitely let me know. It's not like I'm not going to make you do something to stay in it. It's not like some regimented, like, you get this checklist, you have to do like 7, what is it? I forget what the number, but the 75 hard, is that what it's called? Like, it's not like that shit. It's like it's an extra resource that's available, an extra community that's available to you for extra ideas, meal plans, focuses for the week, stuff like that. It's very, very much an easygoing kind of pace. So let me know if you want the link to join the WhatsApp chat for that challenge. But this week, because every Monday I'm going to put a mental and physical focus for you guys. This week's mental focus was changing up our self verbiage. And I noticed that a lot of people were having a hard time with it, and that's to be expected. It's super hard to do. Hold on, I have to lower Bridgerton because while you guys can't hear it, I hear that in the background and it's distracting to me. Please hold. Okay, it's only like the 5th time that I'm watching this season, but no big deal. Well, this half of the season, friggin' torture. But anyway, Bridgerton has been lowered and tamed, and we are back in business. So this is the hardest part, the mindset part, the verbiage part, right? Because there's something inherently that feels inherently irresponsible. At least for me, I don't know if you guys can agree with this, but it feels like inherently irresponsible to not put an emphasis on what's going wrong. At least for me back in the day, it used to be like, I'm a realist. I'm just realistic. I'm just logical. I'm just calling it like it, especially my autistic ass. Like, it's always been like, well, this is what's happening. How am I not going to focus on that? So for me, it's like, if we're not focusing on losing weight, what's the alternative? You're going to gain all this weight, right? It feels inherently irresponsible. If I'm not focusing on how much debt I'm in, we're never going to get out of it. If I'm not focusing on how dirty my house is, I'm never going to clean it. But like, that's not how that works. Just because we're harping on something and zoning in on something that we wish was different and upset about it doesn't mean that that's how us being real about it. You can be real about it without that emotion attached to it. And that was really hard for me to adjust to without feeling like a phony. Anyone ever get that? Tell me in the chat if you feel like you're just delusional, if you're not paying attention or harping or spiraling out on what's not right or what you could do better or what should be better. How are we not going to talk about the things that need to change? But you're not just talking about the things that need to change. You're upset about the things that need to change. And that has got nothing to do with changing it. Crazy, right? Let's see. My part in the chat, my partner's always telling me I'm too mean to myself, but I keep trying to say I'm just stating facts. Perfect example. I'm just being real. I'm just saying facts. And the people around us are like, oh my God. Like you wouldn't want, like, no matter how, let's say you go to a comedy show or something and someone's like, they're trying their hardest, but they're so bad. You would still be upset to see someone heckling the shit out of them, right? You'd be like, oh my God, this poor person. Like, I feel so bad for them. That's so bad. That's so bad. That's so embarrassing. That's so demoralizing. Why are we our own hecklers? And what? That's going to build character? Yeah, that's worked so well for the generations, right? Leading up to us. You know, it's hard not to focus on what's not right in your world. Absolutely. Quote unquote, I mean, it's true, right? But what's true exactly? Like, there's a difference between facts and throwing negativity at it, right? And I don't even like using that term negativity or negativity positivity. It like all grosses me out because I think we should all be state rooted in fact. But we're still not doing that when we're friggin' mean about what's going on or when we're in the doldrums about what's going on. That's not fact. That's embellished. That's an embellished statement with our emotions about the situation. So it's really important, but it's really hard, you know? And I see this come out in innocent ways. And now it's like I hear it from clients and it's like nails down the chalkboard. But I used to be just like this. Like, I swear, I wish you guys knew me. Like, I wish I had recorded myself back in the day. I honestly probably have some really crazy rant videos from back in the day because I used to be very negative and high strung. I'm gonna I'm embarrassed, but I'll try to find them just so I can show you guys. I am not by nature this kumbaya kind of person, right? So, how did I learn about this? How did I get into this kind of mindset? From the most embarrassing way. So, back in my early 20s, I did what a lot of people do, and I joined an MLM. It was literally, it was like a little mini cult, I swear to God. Like the social aspect, the everybody just like getting so close. It was so bad. It was so predatory. I was really like very good at talking to people, but I was really bad at like forcing people to try to work because I was like, I don't know, man, do it or not, which I guess my higher ups didn't like. But without going on a tangent, the one big thing I took away from it was the people doing well had this like attitude about them, like it was just going to happen for them, like it was going to fall from the sky. They worked hard. Now again, I don't really agree with the predatory nature of MLMs. Like, this was in my early 20s, but what I took away from it was, why do I like I'm sitting here hating myself, I'm talking shit on them, honestly, in my head. I'm just this like person that's like about everything. And meanwhile, these people who they weren't like born with a trust fund or anything, like they honestly were just doing well. And they just had this air of like, well, yeah, like this, like, it's gonna sound really cheesy, but this like can-do spirit about them that I could not understand. And someone introduced to me the concept of law of attraction, and I immediately shot that down. I was like, there's no way, like that's ridiculous. And I still, to some degree, like when we get into like the vibrations of stuff, like I'm woo woo and spiritual to a certain degree, but like when we get into like the pseudoscience stuff is when I'm kind of like, let's not put this in the science category, maybe this is just in faith. But I digress. What I did notice about law of attraction, which is the idea that what you believe will happen is what will happen. You can attract what you believe will happen. What I do think is, if you, and I think I said this on the last Zoom as well, if you're going into a game and you already think you're going to lose that game and that you have not a shot in hell, I don't even know why I showed up today, I'm going to lose this game. How well are you going to play? How motivated are you going to be to do your best? And that really stuck with me, where I was like, maybe it's not some cosmic thing that's like giving people what they want. They think, I'm going to win the lottery, and like, here it is. Maybe it's the fact that the belief that they'll win the lottery is the reason they buy the ticket. And I was like, I'm sitting here in my, like, with my little cloud of self-pity about how things haven't worked out the way that I wanted them to work out so far. But I got, like, God willing, because any of us get hit by a bus, right? I got like some time coming up. I got some decades left to live, hopefully. Why am I deciding what's possible for all that time? And then getting mad when what? Like, life doesn't surprise me and prove me wrong? Like, that just seems silly to me at the end of the day. Are you guys following so far? So I just started to think about a lot. And in my being a realist, I thought, I'm not just going to do these stupid affirmations, right? Like, I'm not just going to like just say like life is dandy and life will be dandy, because I at the time I just couldn't wrap my head around that. Like, it was just too much for me. But what I did start thinking is, if I want to be someone who has XYZ, what kind of person is that? How do I embody that? What are the habits I can change that could lead me to be that kind of person? If I believe things are possible, what could come? That possibility. And I started saying to myself, the way I speak in my head and what I notice first and what I ask for, I'm complaining all the time, like, and I hate saying this because like, I don't believe that in the toxic positivity. Like, I'm not telling you guys not to complain, but there is a difference when you're so focused on what hasn't happened for you yet that you're missing the mark on making it happen. To a degree, I'm not talking about like mental health, physical health. Like, I hate how ableist this can come across. So I wish that you guys know, like, the intent that I'm saying it is not to negate struggle at all. I have been sick most of my life, so I've always been very conscientious of like, if, I'm not going to wake up one day and not be a diabetic because I just said to myself, my pancreas is healed. So I don't want anybody, I get like nervous talking about this stuff because I don't want anyone to feel like their struggle is being dismissed. But what's the point of, like, we got to walk up a hill, right? The hill represents the struggle you got to get through. You got an option. You could walk up that hill without a bag of bricks, or you could walk up that hill carrying a bag of bricks. Who wants to arbitrarily carry a bag of bricks? Like, nobody, right? You want to put the bag of bricks down. And that's what changing the inner dialogue is. You still got to get through the shit. You still got to figure stuff out. You can still be, like frustrated in your journey, but you don't got to carry that extra bag of bricks, talking down to yourself, talking about how your life sucks, is never going to get any better, and expect to get up that hill better, like faster. You know what I mean? So I realized I spoke what I didn't want out a lot, like struggle and disdain and what I didn't like. And I put sad face emojis or slanty face emojis at the end of every text because I wanted people to know that I was speaking in a tone of like, meh, about it. And those were the areas I was like, that's the first thing to change. I don't need that bag of bricks. So I figured I'd give it a shot. I want it to be solution minded, because if you go back to the question of how do I embody the person I want to become, really I wanted to become solution minded. And I had that in me already, like it's just how my brain works. I've always been that way, just like I could probably do without the whole like cursing my life before actually getting to the solution. So again, this is not some toxic positivity, rainbows and sunshine. The life is but a dream kind of bullshit. Like, I'm going to explain how I did this, but I couldn't be solution minded if I was still harping on the fact that luck hadn't brought it to me already. Especially, I've been sick since I was 7 years old. I didn't do that. I didn't ask for that. I didn't want, like, and I have my days, right, where I still get upset about it. Like today, I had a diabetic meltdown because my like pregnancy and type 1 has been really, really challenging. And most days I'm going through that challenge with grace and I'm figuring it out and I'm giving myself that permission to be human and just kind of do the best I can. But some days I get really fed up. Today's meltdown was, I can't wait for this to be evened out. I can't wait for my blood sugars to be evened out. I can't wait to be able to eat something and not have to constantly watch my blood sugars for hours. Like, I was still upset about what I was dealing with, but do you know what it would have been back in the day? I should have never been born. I can't believe the stupid diabetes. Everybody else gets to enjoy their lives without having to worry about this. And I have to deal with this. And I'm not cut out for pregnancy. That would have been me back in the day. And what the hell would that have done? So I'm not telling anybody that you have to be sunshine and peaches smiling all the time. We're all human. We're all going to have emotions. You have earned every single right by being here. As long as you have earned every right to have real emotions about things. But if you start internalizing it and telling yourself that everything sucks as a result, or that nothing's going to get better, those are things that have nothing to do with the solution of your problem, or even just vocalizing that you have a problem. That's just bricks in your bag. So here's the big change. And this is the hardest part. If you notice there, I was saying, I can't wait to get better at blank. I can't wait to get to the point where, and I state what it is I want. Instead of saying with, I'm struggling with blah, 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 or it's too hard to do blah, 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 or I hate the taste of blah, blah, blah. This is coming up in the challenge group a lot. And that's why I love this example. Instead, try, I'm working on blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm struggling with remembering to eat every day. I hate that I don't have an appetite. Instead, you'd be like, I'm working on building up an appetite throughout the day. I'm working on finding things I enjoy that my body works well with. You don't have to be like not caring about stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be like, I enjoy eating kale, like just if you do, that's great. I don't. But like, you can be like, I'm working on finding alternatives. I'm working on getting to a place of peace with my body. I'm working on getting to a point where I feel comfortable in my skin. Like, you don't have to ignore not being where you want to be yet. But instead of being like, I hate that my pants don't fit. None of my clothes look good. I can't go out and enjoy. Everybody else is losing weight faster than me. Everybody else is doing this. Everyone has thicker hair than me, whatever the case may be. Like, I'll never get to where I want to be. Like, what is that doing for you? And well, let's go back to the very beginning when I said it feels irresponsible, right? To think about not feeling that way sometimes. And it's just a false sense of control, because if we feel like we can talk down on ourselves, then we feel like we're still somehow in control. Even if it's not happening, we're in control of it not happening because we should be doing better. The idea of putting your faith into something and it not working the way you want it to is scary. So it's better to talk shit about yourself because that's a guarantee. But it still doesn't get you what you want at the end, and it's like playing a losing game. So I use this example, and I want you guys to tell me in the chat what you're thinking about this. Tell me what's standing out to you. Tell me what you're confused about. Like, share your thoughts with me in the chat here. But I use this example, and I don't know if this helps, but if you're trying to make it so that, like, if you want it to be sunny tomorrow, you want the weather to be clear tomorrow, you want it to be good weather, say that. Don't say you hope it doesn't rain. Don't say, I hope it's not shitty out tomorrow. Because you're still speaking what you don't want into existence. You're still putting it out there. Like, do I think we're all going to control the weather? No. But I'm just using that as an example because it's kind of a lot of us, at least I would think, to jump to the point of like, I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow. And that's exactly what we do with other things, when instead what you really want is it to be sunny, or you really want it to be dry. I keep thinking my ass needs some CBT therapy. There's a bunch of different tools and methods that, you can definitely seek out. I think the self-awareness of feeling like this is something I need to work more on, that's huge. And you can also text with me. I know if you're working with a coach, like your coach and I, like, we're part of your team, so feel free to loop us both in if you need some help rearranging like how you're speaking these things out there. But I am a huge advocate of therapy. Therapy contributed a lot to me being able to get through a lot of the things in my life outside of just my verbiage. The reason the verbiage was shit in the beginning was because I needed some therapy. So I think that it starts with the self-awareness of like, wow, I'm carrying that bag of bricks all the time. Because we don't need it. You could just be feeling shitty without having to like speak that, I've been in a bad mood lately, and I definitely am thinking about how my verbiage adds to that. For sure. I've had clients before where I've literally said to them, like, okay, your baby step for the week, do not send me. If any of you guys who have had this baby step are watching, I say, your baby step, do not put a sad or slanty emoji at the end of this text. Like, anytime you're texting me, just say what you got to say, but do not put that sad and slanty text or sad or slanty emoji. We don't need to be putting that tone on things. We don't need to be all shucks in it all the time. We can just say what the issue is and then find a solution. And like, I'm always afraid when I say that to people that they're going to take it badly, but and they don't. Like, they're always like, I know, I got to stop doing that. I'm like, okay, so we're going to stop. And then they're always surprised that it makes a huge difference. But truly, like, I did another Zoom a while back called We Are Our Own. It's like We Are Our Own Movie Producers, I think I called it. I named it. I don't know why. It's a funky name. I will bump it up in the group after this Zoom. But that basically talks a lot about how we're like narrating and producing our own drama here. Like, we're like making our own movie. We're like forlorn, staring out the window as it's raining with a sad song in the background. Like, why are we doing that? Our life is hard enough. We're walking around with chronic illness. Why are we adding to that? There's a lot of reasons why, but like we shouldn't, like we deserve not to. Put the bag of bricks down. I keep thinking I must not be as accomplished as other people my age, old classmates, extended relatives, etc., because I'm not a mother yet, or because I don't love my job, or whatever my mood, feeling like there needs to be more of something I don't have yet. So imagine if you turned that around and you just focused on what you wanted, saying, I really want to find a job that makes me feel passionate. I really want to feel like I'm working towards my passion of being a parent one day. Like what I think I feel like I deserve it. Ooh, Samantha, what do you mean by that? Because that seems like a poignant thought there. But yeah, put your more emphasis, our ADHD, put more emphasis into whatever it is you don't want. Think about like, I want that, or that you don't have. Think about, I want that, without the component of life has left me without these things. Okay, we're all capable of being a success story. It doesn't mean it's going to be without struggle. It doesn't mean that it's going to be without, like, it would be nice if it just happened, but it doesn't mean we're excluded from it happening. We are all so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. And not for nothing, I just had this conversation with someone today too. The life expectancy, at least in the US, is 76 currently. If you think about what age you're at and the time you got to get to 76, and people surpass the life expectancy all the time. Again, God willing, no one gets hit by a bus, okay? But like, there's people who surpass life expectancy all the time. At the end of the day, if it hasn't happened for you yet, are you comfortable waving the white flag and being like, I'm fucked the rest of the time? The rest of the decades that are going to happen, even though I can relive my life multiple times over again with what I got left, it hasn't happened yet. And I'm not saying this to be patronizing in any way at all. I'm always like, I hope I don't offend people when I talk about this, but I used to feel that same way. So I totally get it. Like, I used to compare myself. Like, I went from being in school to go to med school to then going to culinary school to learn how to do pastries and having hot sheet pans thrown at me for free at internships, being told I'm a worthless piece of shit in a kitchen. There were definitely times that I was like, I am a piece of shit. I haven't figured it out yet. This is where I resign myself to be the failure. I should have stayed in school. I should have blah, blah, blah. I should have done this. I should have done that. I used to feel that way all the time. We all deserve to have our own paths. And I think about Anthony Bourdain a lot. I think I shared this on my Facebook the other day, but I've been talking about him for years. He was like 44 and was like a line cook his entire life, just sweating and getting barely paid and struggling and stuff. And then he randomly wrote an article that took off at 44 and ended up becoming Anthony Bourdain. And I think about that all the time, and I'm just like, it's pretty interesting. There's so many stories like that. And the only difference in how and why we could not be that success story is if we tell ourselves that. If we limit our beliefs of what we're capable of, if we give ourselves these time frames that nobody else is holding us to, and if we, take too long to get there, we're screwed. That's what we're doing to ourselves. That's not reality. Just because something is hard or scary, it just feels safer to be like, well, I missed the boat. And I totally get it. But I promise you, you did not miss the boat. You deserve to be solution oriented. And everybody has the ability to become that success story at any time. I really do genuinely believe it. If you don't believe it, I believe it for you. But my goal is you eventually believe it too. I think I don't feel like I deserve to be happy/healthy because I'm afraid of jinxing it. That is a whole thing. That is the crux of my OCD, by the way. So I relate highly. I don't mean to make it about me. This is my way of trying to relate, and I hope it's helpful. But I get it. It's not a silly thing to think. It's like a little bit of like a too good to be true kind of thing. But I remember staying in that limited place of not getting my hopes up for things. Or thinking like I'm just going to reserve myself to always being sick. Or, I mean, my health was in the absolute shitter. I remember even just, I mentioned my type 1 diabetes, like my A1C levels. They're supposed to be, for me as a type 1 diabetic, ideally like 5 or 6, really in that range. Even lower, but that's not really realistic for a lot of type 1 diabetics. So 5 or 6 is like the ideal. I was at a 16. I was having issues with my sight, with my hair, my stomach. I got diagnosed with colitis, rheumatoid arthritis. I pursued diagnoses for decades because doctors just wouldn't listen to me. I was too young. I needed to lose weight, like all these things. And I just kept getting sicker. I was told I couldn't have children. I was told it would be irresponsible to have children. It would kill me if I tried to have kids. It would be impossible to get pregnant. Like and I really believed that I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna assume my identity as the like cute but pessimistic realist. The one with all the chronic health issues. I was self-deprecating in my humor. I didn't really talk in optimism because I found it to be annoying. That was really like what I held on to, because what was the alternative? I was gonna sit here and fool myself and think that things were gonna be different. They are, there. And I really do believe it. It's like, it's no one can tell you to have that switch, but once you start getting into that place of like, no, I do deserve better than this. Like I'm going to be around for a while. So like, even if I really try to make things better for a while and it takes me time, like I'm going to be on that team. It's not easy. And again, I don't like everything we're feeling, everything's valid, but walking around with that cloud and being like, this is my cloud. This is what I should have around me all the time because it feels safe. We're never going to get out from it. Same, my intrusive thoughts tell me that once life gets good, I'm going to die an early death. Mm-hmm. Do you know, pregnancy and OCD is like a sick game. It's like what was that show that like what was like the Squid Games? I feel like it's like mental Squid Games. Like every day. When I tell you, I went out on a date, like Nick and I went out to eat like in a place, like at a restaurant for the first time and I don't even know how long. And the whole way home, I had to work on the thoughts that were like invading my brain that like we're gonna get into a fucking accident on the way home. That's it. This is how my life ends. This is how Nick ends. I'm gonna end up single as a single parent. I'm a widow. Like crazy shit. I can't help it. So when I tell you, I don't want anybody to just be deluding themselves into thinking like you shouldn't be giving, like, oh, you shouldn't think that. I don't believe that that's possible. I just want to offer a different perspective on the active thoughts, because there's passive thoughts, which are intrusive, and then there's active thoughts, which are what you're doing. And those passive thoughts that might come from neurodivergence, from trauma, from the past, or whatever, they're going to happen. You let them come. Oh, shit, I knocked my phone over. You let them come, you let them go. Because they're just there because of, neurons and shit. But the active thoughts, what we're putting our energy into, what we're putting our solution-based efforts into, that is where we do have some kind of participation. So it's like if you're having those intrusive thoughts, don't compound it by making your active thoughts negative too. That's just a scary place to be. The self-deprecating humor, I'm still trying to break out of it. It's only when a friend told me that the humor never made them laugh, just made them sad for me, that I realized how bad I was doing it to myself. Absolutely. And like people will laugh because they just don't know how to respond to things. I used to do this all the time, like before therapy, before realizing like how much trauma I had. I would say something like so off the cuff and they would be like, oh, I thought it was funny in my head. And then when it came out and it was received differently from people around me, I was like, oh, okay. you know, um, just these brains, man. It's hard to do, Trying to think of it in terms of like, I only really want to put my efforts into what I do want helps with the self-deprecating humor, because then you're like, I don't want to talk shit about myself. Like, I don't want to talk badly about a friend. I wouldn't poke fun at a friend's, existence. So I don't want to poke fun at mine. And then it just makes you start to think about it. And you're like, wow, I don't want to be a jerk to myself. And it snowballs from there. So that's a good realization there. I'm glad your friend told you that. Okay, so here's how we'll wrap this up tonight. So I have a little tool for you to use. Okay? When you are here, I want you to think of a person that you cannot stand. This person has slighted you. They've embarrassed you. They've made you mad. They've stood you up. They fired you. They cheated on you, whatever. Like they called you names. Think of someone who absolutely sucks that you know from your past. If you are lucky enough to not have anybody like in your life that's like that you can think of like a TV character. Like for the sake of explaining this, I'm going to say Cruella. Okay. But it's much more effective when it's a real person that you can't stand from your past. It's just something about the visualization of it. I want you to assign the name of this person to these thoughts that you be having. When you have these negative thoughts, when you have these, I call them unhelpful. I like that term way better than negative because I don't want us to think about negative, positive. It makes it like a win or lose kind of thing. I want you to think about it when you're having unhelpful active thoughts. I want you to think of it as it's that person's name. Like, shut up, Cruella. Like, I want you to literally think to yourself, be like, Cruella, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm like in a cursey mood tonight. I'm sorry. But like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I don't abide by that. That's dumb. Like, why are you saying that? Like, that's so mean for no reason. Like, screw off, Cruella. Assign a name to it and literally talk back to it. Why? Because you've had a certain inner dialogue for a long time. You're not going to hear this Zoom and get off this Zoom and be like, oh, wow, I talk to myself different. It ain't going to happen. It's going to take some practice and some time and getting used to coming back at that thought pattern and trying to change it. The good news is doing this repeatedly will change your thought process. Just like you were taught to think in the way that you are now through all the shit you've been through. Now we've pinpointed we want to change it. So now we got to repeat and change directions and change that inner dialogue. So this is kind of an easy way because you're already thinking of someone you kind of can't stand. You're already like, ew, David, like, so think of the name of the person that you can't stand and just be like, shut up. Like, what do you even know? Why would you say that? F off. And it's going to make you laugh because you're going to notice the voice more. You're going to notice the unhelpful thoughts more. And you're going to realize, like, why is that? Like, that's not even helpful. Like, who are you? And it will start to diminish how often that voice pops up because you won't want to deal with that asshole anymore. Silencio Bruno from Luca. I have not ever seen that movie. I hear what is it like? There's so many other songs that I've heard from that and people quote it and I'm like, I'm not there yet. We still watching adult movies up in here and some Bluey, but that's a different story. Because Bluey is amazing. But I like the idea of the silencio part, But yeah, assign a voice of someone you can't stand, your inner saboteur. Absolutely. You silence that voice. F off. And I want you guys to tell me how it helps. Okay. So text me, text your coach, text the group chat if you want. If you're in the summer challenge group, I want to know if this helped kind of shed light on what our mental focus was for the week because it's not an easy one. It's something we're going to keep working on because it doesn't change overnight. And I don't expect anybody to just all of a sudden become this ray of sunshine tomorrow. That's not what this is about. It's just about not walking around with that bag of bricks. All right. So I'm a feedback queen. Tell me, I'd like to know what you guys thought about this. Tell me privately, tell me in the group. Just let's share it. Okay. And remember, not this Monday, but next Monday. So what is that? The 3rd? That will be when we're going to make our switch. So yeah, not this Monday, the 27th, because we already did this week. We're not going to meet next Thursday. We're going to resume the Zoom on June 3rd with the Eat the Frog example. Okay, so definitely gives you guys some time to catch up on recordings from the last week. And I hope you all have a fabulous night and this was helpful. So bye. Good night.